Hi, I'm Lauren. Welcome to our channel. This is Sherry.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about visitation with fostering and what that looks like, how often you're expected to do that, and where that will take place. So let's get started. When you receive the call for a new child to be placed in your home, they're going to be referring you to a visitation center, and they will be giving you a call and setting up visitation with the child. Doesn't matter the age, whether it's a newborn, 1 week old, or a 15-year-old. They will be setting up visitation with more than likely the mother and the father. Could even be grandparents if they were living with grandma and grandpa at that time, but that what they will do is they will give you a call and they'll set up a time that works for your schedule, and more than likely it will be at least 2 days a week, possibly even 3 days a week. The reason they do this is because, well, at least part of the reason is that this has been a traumatizing thing for the child to be pulled out of their home, and they want to make it as comfortable as possible, emotionally and intellectually and socially. So, um, if your child is in school, then they will try to do it after school hours. However, if they have if there's no openings during school or after school hours, then they'll do it during school, and your child will have to be taken out for the visitation. So, what it will look like is, let's say I have a 4-month-old baby that's been and their 4-year old sibling that's been removed from the home. So I would take the child and check in the lobby, in the front desk, and I would sit in there waiting for the parent to show up. And the parent is going to be in the same lobby. And it can be scary and intimidating at first, because when you're first meeting that parent, obviously they are very upset and traumatized, with good reason. Any parent would be, even if there's good reason for them to be removed from the home. And so it's kind of a little bit scary at first, but anyway, so you'll sit down and you'll wait, for however long till the visitation supervisor to come back and call the child and their parents back. So at that point, you can leave and come back and I believe it's an hour. Usually visits are an hour. Anyway, then you'll come back and pick them up, and then you'll go about the rest of your day, and then you'll go and come back another day. Um, you want to share your experience, Sherry?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to add the reason why visitations are in place is because the whole object of this fostering is reunification with their biological family. And so
Absolutely.
if they can salvage the family unit, they're gonna do that. However, while the kids are with you, they're investigating their case, and so that is why visitations are in place. And a lot of things can come out in visitations that can either be for the parents or against the parents, and it all depends on how the parents are handling the situation. So um, in several of our cases that we have had, and we've had visitation, um, I there's times where I show up with the child and the parents don't show up. And so that is going to ignite a whole bunch of behaviors from that child. It's
Yeah.
going to be another rejection. They're not going to understand, and it can go, depending on how young the kid is, to how old the kid is. Sometimes, um, if they're babies and the parent doesn't show up, they're really not going to understand what just happened. But when the kids are able to comprehend what just happened, you might have a couple days of some behaviors that you have never seen before. Um, and then maybe later on that week, you have another visitation. So if the parents continually don't show up, then the state will say okay, we're canceling visitations for now. Um, and you can be in contact, you can be in communication with your caseworker to express what's going on, like after the visits, if they show up and they're not there. Oh, there are times we had this where our caseworker would call me if the parents showed up. So the parents would have to show up 30 minutes prior to the meeting taking place. And then if parents showed up, they would call me and say, okay, they're here, head on down. And so I would go down. And so we didn't have to go through this heartbreak of this child showing
Yeah.
up and the parents not showing up. That was one way that we kind of got around that. But it's just really, I mean, I cried so many times, like just hurting for the child that I had, because that's just, first they lose their family and now their parents not even showing up. So and it doesn't always look like that, but there are times where will show up like that. So you just need to be prepared for that. Um, um, there's, like Lauren said, at first it is scary because you're going into a situation that is kind of unfamiliar. You know, you're meeting the biological parents. I've always had I would just kill them with kindness type attitude. You know, I would never like show attitude toward them, regardless of what they have done, um, because it makes them relax a little bit more around me. And that has worked in our favor so many times. And we've adopted 7 kids. And so, three different sibling groups. So it, I would recommend that. Kids do not like being in the middle of a tug of war, and so our job is to make them feel at ease as much as we can.
Yeah, I agree. And for starters, I hate to say this, but it's almost guaranteed that they are going to start off not liking you because they're going to view you as part of their problem. You are considered almost as if you work for the state, and so they're not going to like you because you are the kid's temporary new parent. However, if you can be kind and very diplomatic and encouraging to them, and just light conversation, of and being respectful to them as a parent, sharing, things that are acceptable to share with how the child's day went or whatever. I mean, you have to be careful what you disclose, but at the same time, um just interacting with them and not treating them as less than, so to speak. Um and we always know that the ultimate goal is to have reunification, and so you have to have that in the back of of your mind. These kids, more than likely, are the plan is for the state to get them back into their parents' home. And I mean, what that's going to take, if there's drugs involved, is the state is going to want proof that the parent is no longer taking drugs. They're going to be having drug tests done. They're going to be expecting them to go to through drug rehab programs, things like that. They also will probably have, if there's forms of neglect or things like of that nature, they'll probably have them uh, taking parenting classes. And you can be a cheerleader to them. I mean, for me, I know there's parents that I had a uh, longer case where they were in my home longer. And I almost always was, as long as a parent wasn't being abusive or we didn't find out about horrible things, we would try to be an encouragement to the parents, and helpful as possible and kind as possible. As I know that I'm thinking of one case where they allowed the parent to start visiting outside of the visitation center. And at this point, I knew this parent fairly well. And so that can happen too. That normally will not happen unless they are trying to put the child back into the parent's home. Um, and it's in those cases, it's going to be your job to be aware of what's going on, how the parent is acting. And I've seen, unfortunately, in cases where I got to the visit and I could tell that the parent was not in their right mind, and so that they were on something, and so I you have to really think fast and clear on those kind of situations. I In that particular case, I went ahead and dropped the child off, but then I ended up I called the parent back and said, because I had their number at this point, and I said, are you okay? And fortunately, we had a good enough of a relationship where I was able to say, are you okay? Because I can come back and get those kids. And the person said, I need you to come back and get them. And it was very sad. It broke my heart, but that's what I had to do. Now, in most cases, I think if I had to do it over again, I probably would not have dropped the child off at all. But in this situation, I had never experienced that before, and I honestly didn't know what to do. If the parent would have said no, I probably would have called the caseworker immediately and said, we have a situation, But thankfully, it turned out I went back. Again, I that probably was that's a case where I wouldn't recommend handling it that way because it should have been handled immediately. But I'm sitting there going, okay, am I crazy, or is this person? He didn't quite seem right to me, but I wasn't sure, and I couldn't nail it down, and so
Well, and a
thankfully,
lot of times a lot of these situations, it's you learn as you go. Like there's
yeah.
no playbook for all of this stuff. Like I never had a conversation with anyone regarding visitation or half of these topics that we talk about on this channel. Never. We go through the class and then they tell us how to,
Mm.
you know, give situations like what these kids have been through. But as far as the day to day foster care, no, all of this, and Lauren, I'm sure you can agree, all of this is that you and I kind of learned off the seat of our pants.
Oh yeah. They do not give you a how-to book on visitations, and
No,
they can be scary because quite frankly, if you feel unsafe, which I have in some cases, because again, you're in the same room as these parents, and some of these parents have are capable of doing harm, and
in the
so
lobby, in the lobby,
what
right?
did I say? Yeah.
That you're there. I just wanted our viewers
Yes.
to understand that it's in the lobby. You don't go back with them in the.
No, yes. Right, right, right. You're in the lobby and then you drop them off. But in some cases, I've had parents be unsafe with me and say things that were not appropriate. And so I would immediately report that to the caseworker, and I just said, I am not comfortable. This is beyond what I'm comfortable with. We need to make another plan. And so they would handle it in a different way. And in those cases, oftentimes what they'll do is when you drive up to the visitation center, the visiting supervisor will actually come out to the car and get the child and bring them in, and then you can leave. But it's a vulnerable feeling. Even that, it's a vulnerable feeling. I mean, um it can be pretty uncomfortable, and scary at times.
Yeah,
But that being said, it's not all the, of course, not all the parents are that way. There's parents that I'm sure there's parents that are even innocent, but there's parents that just they need to get off the drugs, and they've been neglectful, and if they can do that, then they can uh, better their lives and get their kids back. I mean, I would not recommend this in all cases, but I had a case where I knew that the mother was going to be getting the kids back very quickly, and in my situation, I actually invited her to church, and she went to church with me. But that you have to really know your situation well, and I felt that I knew her well enough that was going to work for us, and the kids were thrilled. I mean, the mom and I had a good relationship. The
Right.
kids were thrilled. The mom did get them back, and so that was a special time.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that because we also invited one of the moms. The kids were going back, and I invited her to church. So we all got in my van and we went to church.
Yeah, yeah,
And the kids, they were so happy and they just could not believe that their mom was going to church. And
that's
so,
awesome.
yeah. Um, but one of the frustrating things, and I think this is true all across the board, um, is when you're taking the kids to visitation, one of the things that all the parents do is they always bring gifts.
Yes,
I mean, and so I had a couple kids who they were not going to be going back to their parent. I knew it, but the kids didn't know it. And they were so excited to go to visitation because they didn't know what their parent was going to bring next. And so they weren't really, um, is they really didn't know their biological parent because we were like their third home that they were in and they were really young. But it was like, this is what the parents do, um, because the parents are looking forward to seeing their child. And so, but that is a frustrating thing, but you have to just work through it. And if this is what the parents do, then, the parents could be doing a whole lot worse than bringing their kids a gift.
absolutely. And
And so,
yeah, another thing I would like to add is I always tried to think of it as kind of like they say the same thing, like when two parents are separated or getting a divorce, that it's important that they unite for the good of the children. And so I I mean, we had a rule in our house. We never, ever, ever bad talked the parents. It was just, I mean, if you need to talk privately to your caseworker, you go in your room and do it where the kids can't hear, because those are their mommies and daddies. And
yeah,
even if they were bad, even if they were abusive, they still love their parents, and that's their identity. So if you sit there and bash them, um, to someone else in front of them, or to them, it will not go well for you. It's just a very bad idea.
turn them completely off to them accepting you.
Hmm.
Like you were saying, Lauren, these parents could have done the most horrific thing to them, and they think their parents have wings. Like it takes a while for them to really understand what has been happened to them, and that's through counseling and things like that. So, yeah, I would say that's actually a very, very good point, Lauren, that we really have to refrain from. It's kind of like a divorce situation where you do not talk about the other parent negatively.
Yeah.
That will only come back to bite you really, really bad. And
Yeah.
you don't have to puff their parent up, but just don't talk negatively
Yeah.
about the parent.
Yes, absolutely. And then
So,
one other thing I wanted to add is that, um, if you do see behavioral issues come up after visitation, write them down and share and email the caseworker. If they're severe, call them, because if that child is feeling, if there's fear going on or something going on, that there the caseworker needs to know how these visits are affecting the child, because if they're affecting them in a very negative way, there is a possibility that the judge, what it would do is, usually it'll mean going back to court, that the judge will reconsider and evaluate that, because they want what's best for the child. And it's more, I think, if I remember right, that they've said in the past the visitations are, I for the child. Do you remember them? Is it? I mean, I know it's for the parent too, but it's really, they're looking out for what's best for the child. So if the parent is thriving in it and saying, "Oh, this is wonderful," and so glad I'm getting 3 visits a week, but if the child is going away and, and having major meltdowns when they leave, and which I've seen that where they didn't respond positively at all, and they will take that into consideration. And if you're feeling that it's affecting them in a negative way, it's important to let the caseworker know about that.
Absolutely. We've had situations where we've had, and I'm not saying all biological parents are like this. I'm just speaking from my experience as far as a couple of mine. I've had one um, where they were talking to their kids, making a plan as far as um, running away from my house so they can get them so they can travel away. They were going to try to get away. And so these visitations really are very telling. And even though the goal is to reunification, but sometimes reunification isn't um, what it turns out to be. I will tell you that that case, the kids did go back to the parents, and it it was a wonderful reunion. What I mean, the parents did an amazing recovery, and I'm still in touch with these kids to this day, and it literally like makes my heart go pitter patter
Oh
because
yeah.
that was a rough run. It was a rough run, but these parents worked so hard to turn it around, and they got their kids back. And so I was so I went to the parents' graduation for when they graduated through the drug school and all that. I went to their graduation, um, and anyway, I
That's
can't
fantastic.
help that family. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, did you have anything else to add, Lauren?
Nope.
All right. So thank you for joining us. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and, share this with as many people as you think need it. And if you have a question, please put it in the comments below. We would love to answer your questions on there.
Yeah, we would love to do a video. If there's something that you would like us to do a video on, please put it on there, because we're really open to things that you guys would like to talk about. So thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.